Welcome back to Echo Family. How are you today? Please take a moment. The story will begin now.
We were halfway through dinner when Grandma Margaret set down her fork. She looked straight at me. Her voice cut through the room like glass. "Emily, are you still living in the house I bought you?" My breath stalled. My hands shook under the table. "My name is Emily Carter. I'm 26. And in that moment, I knew something was terribly wrong. "I don't have a house," I whispered. Mom's smile collapsed. Dad stared at his plate. Grandma's face changed in a way I'll never forget. "Then where did my money go?" "Before we continue, tell me where you're watching from and one detail about your setup, your city or state, and whether you're on the sofa, in your kitchen, or ending a long day with echoes of life." Grandma's question didn't drift away. It settled over the table like cold air. Mom reached for her napkin, her fingers trembling hard enough to shake the crystal. Dad cleared his throat, too loud, too forced, like a man trying to bury a truth already exposed. Guests lowered their eyes, choosing silence over involvement, as if looking away made the moment disappear. Grandma kept watching me, not accusing, not confused, concerned, in a way I hadn't felt from anyone in years. "You should have a home, Emily," she whispered, and her voice cracked just slightly, not with age, but with betrayal beginning to surface. Dad forced a laugh then, thin and cheap. "Oh, Mother, she misunderstood you," he said, like I was a child who couldn't hold a simple thought. But Grandma's gaze stayed steady on me. She knew I hadn't misunderstood anything. She knew something was deeply wrong. She leaned back slowly, the small movement of a woman who'd just realized she'd been lied to. I felt myself shrinking again, the familiar feeling. The years of being compared, corrected, quietly diminished beside expectations I never agreed to. Dad pressed on, his voice sharpening. "Emily struggles because she overspends," he said. "She isn't ready for property." Mom nodded immediately. "We were protecting your investment, Mother. She lacks discipline." Their words cut deeper than they intended. I thought of my leaking ceiling, my 2 jobs, my empty fridge, my heater that wheezed like it was dying. I thought of every time they told me to be grateful, to be patient, to stop wanting more. Grandma's face changed then, a storm gathering quietly, elegant and dangerous. She turned toward them. "Richard, Elaine," she said softly. "You told me she moved in. You sent photos. You said she loved it." Dad stared at the floor. Mom covered her mouth. Neither spoke. Grandma lifted her chin, her voice steady and devastating. "Where is the home I bought my granddaughter? Because lies always rot from the inside out." Grandma didn't speak again, not for a long moment, and somehow the silence felt louder than her voice. I kept my eyes on my plate, because looking at her meant facing the truth, not just about the missing house, but about the years I'd survived without anyone noticing. She finally turned toward me. "Show me where you live," she said quietly. "Tonight." Dad flinched. Mom froze. Both of them panicked. "That's unnecessary," Dad snapped. "Her place is fine." But my chest tightened, because even fine wasn't true. Grandma rose slowly, her cane tapping the hardwood, a sound sharp enough to slice through their excuses. "We go now," she said, "and no one stops me." So I drove home with Grandma beside me, her breathing soft, her hands folded neatly, her eyes on the passing streetlights. She didn't ask questions. She didn't lecture. She didn't fill the silence with false comfort. She just sat with me, which already meant more than anything my parents had done in years. When we reached my building, she stepped out and stared up at the cracked brick walls, the broken light above the entrance, the rusted railing that shook if you touched it wrong. "They let you live here," she whispered, and her voice trembled in a way that broke something inside me. Inside my apartment, I tried to hide the worst parts. The taped window frame, the mold I couldn't scrub away, the bucket catching the drip from the ceiling. But Grandma saw everything. She walked slowly through the tiny space, her fingertips brushing the peeling paint, the worn couch, the draft from the window. "Emily," she whispered, "you survived more than they ever admitted." Her words cracked me open. I told her about the missed meals, the second job, the nights layering sweaters because the heater failed again. I told her about the shame, the belief that maybe I wasn't worth more. Grandma took my hands gently. "My dear girl," she said, "they didn't just fail you, they built their lives on your silence." And for the first time, I saw the truth not as a wound, but as evidence. Something I could hold, something I could use. "Tomorrow," Grandma said, "we stop letting them rewrite your life. Because silence ends when someone finally listens. If this were your family, what would you do next? Comment 1 to confront them directly, even if it breaks everything. Comment 2 to step back, gather proof, and protect yourself first. Echoes of life is listening. I barely slept that night. Grandma didn't either. I could hear her moving softly in the guest room, papers shifting, a pen tapping lightly, as if she were preparing for something inevitable. By morning, we were both dressed early. Her coat was buttoned, her cane polished, her expression carved from quiet steel. At 9 a.m., we walked into Jonathan Hale's office together. My heart thudded. Her steps never faltered. My parents were already inside. Mom's eyes were red. Dad's jaw was locked tight. Two people preparing excuses, not confessions. Jonathan began immediately. Let's address the 400,000 transfer. Dad leaned back. A practiced sigh. We were overwhelmed. We thought Emily wasn't ready. We meant no harm. Grandma didn't blink. Jonathan slid a document toward them. Then explain the lake house purchase. Mom inhaled sharply. Dad's face drained. Jonathan continued, unfolding receipts like evidence bags. Renovations, furniture, vacations, designer jewelry, all tied to the same account. Dad exploded. That money saved this family. We used it responsibly. Just not how Mother intended. Grandma stood slowly. The room stilled instantly. Richard, she said, you let my granddaughter struggle for rent, while you drank wine on a lake deck funded by her future. Dad opened his mouth, but she raised a hand, and the words died. You lied to me, she said. You lied for years. You built comfort on Emily's hardship. Her voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. Jonathan folded his hands. There's also the estate update, he said. Mrs. Carter has revised her will. Dad tensed. Mom's breath hitched. Jonathan read it aloud. Every word a slow, controlled explosion. Emily is the primary heir. Emily will inherit the trust. Emily will receive the Carter holdings. Mom gasped. Dad lurched forward. You're giving everything to her? His voice cracked with disbelief. She didn't earn that. We built this family. We held everything together. Grandma's stare hardened. No, Richard. You held everything back. Dad slammed his hand on the table. She's manipulating you. She's always been weak. Enough. Grandma's cane struck the floor, a sharp crack that stilled the air. She survived what you caused. That's strength. Dad stepped back, as if the truth physically struck him. Jonathan slid one final document across the table. The Clearwater Bend property will be transferred to Emily. 7 days. No extensions. Mom began to cry. Dad stared at the paperwork, his world cracking at the edges. Grandma turned to me softly. We're almost done, sweetheart. Then she faced them again. No anger, only heartbreak sharpened into resolve. The lies end today, because you can't steal a future without losing your own. The days after that meeting felt unreal. Quiet, heavy, waiting, like the air before a storm breaks. Grandma kept every document Jonathan requested. She moved with calm purpose, as if she'd spent 10 years preparing for this reckoning. I stayed close to her, learning more in 2 days than in 26 years with my parents. On the third morning, Jonathan called. The transfer is signed, he said. They surrendered the lake house. Just like that. The place they flaunted for years. The place purchased with my stolen future was mine. But Jonathan hesitated. There's more, he said quietly. They're filing appeals. Your father is blaming you publicly. My stomach nodded. Blaming me for what? For manipulating your grandmother. For turning her against them. The words hit harder than I expected. Grandma listened silently as I relayed Jonathan's warning. When I finished, she set her teacup down. The porcelain trembled slightly. Her hands did not. Let them talk, she said. Lies age quickly. Truth endures. But the truth was complicated. I'd spent years carrying their silence, their comparisons, their subtle punishments dressed as advice. Now they were rewriting the story again, this time casting me as the villain. That afternoon, Dad appeared at my apartment unannounced. He pounded on the door, shouting my name, his voice thick with rage. I opened it only because Grandma was beside me. He tried to push inside. Grandma lifted her cane, blocking him with quiet authority. You don't dictate this anymore, she said. Dad's face twisted. You poisoned her mind. You took everything from us. I stepped forward before Grandma could. No, I said. You took everything from me first. He scoffed. You don't deserve any of this. You couldn't handle a house. You couldn't handle real responsibility. His words should have hurt. But they didn't. Because I wasn't standing alone this time. Grandma placed a hand on my shoulder. She handled your neglect, she said. She handled your absence. She handled your silence. Her voice grew sharper. What she couldn't handle was believing it was her fault. Dad's mouth opened, but no words came out. Grandma continued, calm and devastating. Your inheritance is gone, Richard. Your control is gone, and the daughter you ignored is no longer yours to diminish. Mom appeared behind him, eyes swollen, voice small. Please, Emily, we're family. For years, those words trapped me. Tonight, they didn't even reach me. We were family, I said softly, until you chose comfort over me. The door closed on their silence. For the first time, I felt the balance shift, not in anger, but in clarity. Because letting go wasn't punishment. It was survival. The lake house was quiet the first night I slept there. Too quiet, almost unreal. I moved slowly through each room, touching the walls, the windows, the spaces that should have held years of memories. Spaces that were stolen from me. Spaces I was finally reclaiming. Grandma visited often. She sat by the water with me, wrapped in her soft gray shawl, her cane resting beside her. Sometimes she told stories. Sometimes she said nothing. Her presence healed things I didn't know were broken. The paperwork settled quickly. The appeals faded. Dad stopped calling. Mom sent one letter, apologies wrapped in excuses. And Grandma asked gently, "Do you want to answer?" I shook my head. Some closures don't need words. Some truths stand without explanation. I turned one room into a studio, filled it with warm light, sketches, soft fabrics, and the quiet I had begged for my entire life. Work came easier. Breathing came easier. Living felt new. When the first snow arrived, I stood on the deck, watching the flakes fall over the lake. I held Grandma's scarf close. I whispered, "I'm safe now." Because I was. Not because of the house. Not because of the money. But because I had chosen myself. Finally. Fully. Unapologetically. Grandma squeezed my hand that night. "You've built a beautiful life," she said. "And you did it with honesty, not inheritance." Peace didn't roar into my life. It arrived softly, like snowfall on still water. Because sometimes the life you deserve begins the moment you refuse to shrink. If this story stayed with you, tap like and subscribe to Echoes of Life. And when you're ready, click the box above for another story waiting for you.